Keep up with Scottish football with your host, John Turner.
So this week's guest on the Low Ball Show is a man who began as a youth down at Norwich and then was at Brechin City for 10 years and is now currently at Stirling Albion. It's defender Paul McLean. Paul, thanks for joining us today.
No problem. Good to be here.
So, starting out at Norwich, how did that come about?
It happened, I think I was 15, maybe 16 at the time, and we were in a decent boys club level, Musselburgh Windsor I played with, and a few scouts had came and watched, and after one game, Norwich scout came in, pulled 6 years to start with, into a room, spoke and told us he was a scout for Norwich, wanted to take us down. So it was a wee bit surreal, to be honest. You're playing at Musselburgh and you hear in Norwich's interest, so it was brilliant. So the 6 years went down for a trial game. We were down there for 2 nights, I think. Trained, had the trial game, went back up the road, got a phone call. They wanted to take 2 years back down again for a week to have another look at. So me and Chris Renton went down for a week and trained, played the game for the under-18s there at the end of the week, and Big Rents got offered a deal there and then. I got the phone call saying he wanted to have another look at me, so went down again for another week, played a game against Crystal Palace at their training ground and got offered a deal, scholarship deal at the end of that. So 2 years down there, it was quite surreal, to be honest.
And how did that work? So when you had moved down there, would you stay with a family or that, or?
Yeah, so me and Chris, obviously I knew Chris, he's from Musselburgh as well and played same boys club, so it helped that the 2 years went down together. So we joined in with a family in a little village right next to the training centre, which was at Colney, a place called Little Melton. So me and Rent stayed with a family there, and it was pretty good. The family was brilliant. They had 2 young kids of their own, like 6 or 7, 8 and 9. So they were a good age as well. It meant one of them was part of the Norwich Youth Academy as well. So they were ingrained in that system. So it was really good, and they were brilliant with us. And we just stayed there the whole week. And it was a situation where there was a lot of boys from London that stayed down there. So they would stay with families Monday to Friday and go home at the weekend. Obviously, for me and Rents, that wasn't viable. So we just stayed the whole time and went out of into Norwich City at the weekend and cinema and stuff like that. So it was brilliant, great experience.
And with that, I mean, how did you, as you're saying with it being like a surreal experience, was it what you would kind of imagine, like night and day from kind of training centres up here and stuff?
When I was young, I'd been in at a couple of clubs. Like I was in at Hibs, I'd been in trial at Dunfermline, stuff like that, and the facilities there, as much as they've got better as the years went on. I'm talking that's 16 years ago. They were nothing compared to what they are now. But I remember being in at Hibs and we were just training at Leith Academy, sports. It's a school basically, you know what I mean? And then I went down to Norwich and it was unbelievable. Colney Training Centre was crazy good, and I'm like, bloody hell, what is this? And then we played at get training grounds at Arsenal, Chelsea, stuff like that, and it's a completely different world. The only one that would compare at that time was Murray Park. Obviously, Murray Park was brilliant back then. You've now got Celtic's one, your Hearts' one, at Oriam Hibs' new one. It is Scottish football's catching up, but down there, it's the money makes a huge difference. Yeah. It's a different world in there, and it really 2 years. Looking back on it now, I probably didn't appreciate it as much back then as I do now. Looking back on it, but what a start to your career it is.
And then, as you say, 2 years there, and then coming back up, was it kind of planned that you wanted to come back up, or?
Well, to be honest, the 2 years, so it was Nigel Worthington was the first team manager at the time when I went down, and I was young, so I never really had too much interaction with him. I trained a couple of times with the first team, but I was never I was a mile off it, to be honest. I was still a young boy, and then he got the sack, and Peter Grant came in with Jim Duffy as his number 2. And I think the wee bit of Scottish connection did help. I was over with the first team basically on a weekly basis. Never quite made the first team, but I was a regular in the reserves. I actually captained the reserves. I was doing really well. And again, I say that I think the Scottish did help. They brought a lot of Scottish players down at the time. There was a lot. They brought David Marshall came down, Simon Lappin. There was a lot of players came down. And then things didn't go too well, and they got the sack. And Glenn Roeder came in, and the first 2 weeks, again, I was over first team the whole time. I actually thought I had a right good chance of getting a new deal, and then for whatever reason, just didn't fancy me after that. Told me I wasn't going to get a new deal, which is fair enough. That thing happens in football. And so I think it was about April time. The boys that were getting a new deal, it was like a exit trials, they're called. So we went, I can't remember, I think it was in Coventry or Leicester. It was something like that. It was university round about that area, and there was a trial game. All the teams for around England, from Newcastle right down to your Southamptons, like the whole big trial game for all the boys getting released. And you actually got an email with the teams that were interested in taking you in on trial.
Yeah.
And I got 2 or 3 teams. I had QPR, MK Dons, Stockport, and Falkirk with the 4 teams. So I seen Falkirk and was keen to come home. And at the time, Stockport were really interested in taking me, but I just had it in my head that I wanted to come home. So signed for Falkirk for a year. And again, it was another great experience. Loved it there. Got on really well with the boys, and it was just nice to be back home. And that way you didn't realise you're a wee bit homesick until you get back home. You know what I mean? You see your mates, your family, like my partner at the time, stuff like that. Like, it was just nice to have that comfort.
And then, like, when you, as you say, like, kind of coming back and realising kind of being a bit homesick and that, did you feel that you kind of settled better coming back?
I do. I honestly do. Like, again, looking back on it, the time at Norwich was unbelievable. I improved so much as a player, learnt so much, got the experiences, but I think mentally, I didn't realise how hard it was moving down when you're 16-year-old away. And I'm an only child. I'm quite close to my parents, stuff like that. So it was difficult. Like, obviously having Chris Rent in there did help, that you had that like mate for back up here that you knew did help. But he actually got a bad injury right at the start of our second year scholarship. He broke his leg when we playing Chelsea 18s, and he then moved back up the road for 6 weeks because there was nothing he could do. And that time was really hard because, like, I was in the house myself, and it was, well, we're just the family, but you've not got him, like, because it was quite good in the house. They had like 3 floors to the house, and we had our own floor at the top. So you had my room, Chris's room, and our own bathroom. So it was almost like a little like hotel kind of thing. We were up there, we'd just go down and get dinner at the end, like whenever it was. So it was quite nice. But he obviously moved away, so that was quite difficult when you're in by yourself, because, like, especially at weekends, all the other guys who like stayed in London or stayed nearby, they were going home. So I was sort of there myself, you know what I mean? And it's quite difficult. So coming back up and just having the home comforts did make a difference.
And then going to Brechin, because obviously a place where you spent a lot of your career. What was it, 19 you were when you went to Brechin?
19 I was. After I left Falkirk, went straight away. I was there with 19 now.
And how did that come about? Was that the kind of connection?
Yeah, again, Jim Duffy was the manager. So I'd actually, when I got left Falkirk, I had a couple of offers, and I was actually in with Berwick Rangers, and I was meant to. So I'd been in for a week with them, and I was meant to play on the Saturday. I got a phone call on the Friday night for Jim, just saying that he was interested in taking me to Brechin, and I'd worked with him and got on really well with him down south. And to be honest, I wasn't really enjoying it at Berwick. I don't know why. I didn't really, like, it wasn't for me. So when I got that phone call, I let Berwick know that I was going to go play on the Saturday for Brechin. So went along and had a decent game, and straight after, I think, no, actually, we had another game on the Tuesday. So went in there, and straight after that game on the Tuesday, Jim offered me a 2-year deal. So it was perfect. And, like, because I'd worked with him, I was quite happy to do it.
I mean, that must have been an awkward conversation, was it not, on the phone to say, look, I know I've been training with you.
Yeah.
I'm due to play tomorrow. Actually, I'm not going to.
But I think as well, at the time, Brechin were in League One and Berwick were in League Two. So I had that, and I just said, I can't even remember what the manager's name at the time was. It might have been Ian Little or John Coughlin. I can't remember which one it was, but I just said that, like, I'd known Jim, and I was going to do that, you know what I mean? And it's just like, and I just used it as a higher level. I wanted to play as high a level as I could, you know what I mean? So, and they were good. I don't know whether they were going to offer me a deal or not. I have no idea. But as soon as I got the interest for Brechin, because I'd worked with him before. Obviously, the travel, like, you knew the travel, like, was going to be a lot, but you're still 19 and you just want to stay in the game. And it's being for Edinburgh, there's not actually that many Edinburgh like based teams that are in the lower levels. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's changed a bit now when you've got Spartans up, you've got Bonnyrigg up, Edinburgh up. But at that time, they were all still in the Lowland League or whatever it was, the equivalent at that time. So just had to almost, like, you want to stay in the game. So wanted to take what I could, as high as I could get.
And as you say, signing a 2-year deal when you first went, I mean, did you envision at all that you would be there for 10 years?
No, never. And that's the thing as well. You, especially like now, like looking back, like I've seen so many lower league players, and it's very rare that a player stays at one club for so long. Like, you jump about. Usually, players are there for 1, 2, 3 seasons, then they're somewhere else and somewhere else. And you joke with certain players that they've played for almost every lowland league club, or every low like League One, League Two club. You know what I mean? So for me to stay for 10 years, I think it just shows that I was well liked up there. I enjoyed it up there. I had a great relationship with the board, the staff, the fans, like the players that came through. Like, I love my time up there. It soured a wee bit towards the end, but like, I've got nothing but good memories about my time up there, and I wouldn't change it. Like, I had options during the whole times I had offers for other clubs. I could have left earlier, but I probably could have got more like money than I was getting up there. But the thing is, I enjoyed it, and at the end of the day, like, I never really seen the need to leave.
Yeah. And I mean, just I suppose one of the questions about being at that club for so long that I've got was that when you see a change of manager happening, you know, because obviously managers will come in, and I've spoken to a lot of players where they say, you wonder, you know, am I part of their plans because I wasn't one of their signings or stuff? How, because you'll have seen quite a few from that. I mean, how does that feel when a new manager comes in?
It's difficult, and you do worry because especially when you're younger. As I've got older, it's like it's easier to speak to a manager and say, and just be on, like, straight. Like, if you're no part of his plans, it's fine. Like, I've been, as you say, through many managers. It's now you just want to be treated like fairly. But back when you're younger, you have got that nervousness that you want to prove yourself and stuff. So like, Jim Duffy was only there for a year, and then he left, and Jim Weir came in, and I'd played centre half basically my whole career, and then Jim Weir came in, and one of the first things he said to me is, he didn't think I was like tall enough. He didn't want me as a centre half. So I'm thinking, bloody hell, I've not got a chance here. So he asked, I remember him pulling me one Thursday night at training and asked if I'd ever played right back. And I said that a few times in my career, but no often. And he said to me, I think you're going to play right back. I want to give you a shot. So I remember playing my first game. It was actually funny. It was away to Stirling Albion in a friendly. And I was actually at Tea in the Park that weekend. So I was at Tea in the Park on the Friday, and I had to get my dad to come and pick me up for Tea in the Park to go to the Stirling game. And obviously, I was young. Look, I'll be honest, I'd had a couple of drinks the night before, and I'm thinking, fucking hell, I'm playing what am I doing here? And I went and played on a Saturday. I actually played really well. And so Jim was like to me, I'm going to play as my right back this season. And then the next, I think, 6 or 7 years, I've played right back. And it was mad how, like, that thing I'd never thought I'd play be a right back. And so that worked out, and that was ideal. Then Jim left, and Ray McKinnon came in, and I remember him watching the game. We played at Arbroath, and we got beat 3-0, and we were terrible. Like, I played right back, and Johnny Brown played left back. And I remember coming into the Tuesday night, and it was his first game, and I'm thinking, Jesus, I'd had a nightmare on Saturday, and I thought, oh, he doesn't fancy me here. And we played the next game week at home, and I think it was Albion Rovers, or might have been Stranraer, I can't remember, but we had, both me and Johnny played really well, and we got pulled in the next again Tuesday. And Ray McKinnon turned around and said, I'm going to be honest with you, I looked at that game and thought, I need 2 new fullbacks right away. And I was like, and he's like, but I've changed my mind in this week. And he offered us on the night, that same night, a 2-year deal. So it's just like, that's how quickly things can change in football, you know what I mean? So he's thought, I need 2 new fullbacks. A week later, he's like, here's a 2-year deal. So it's crazy how that can happen.
Because it's mad to think as well, because obviously if you're saying that you had a stinking game, which occasionally obviously everybody will, to then having, you know, a good game, he's not really sure what's going to come in the third game.
Exactly.
To then offer you.
But I think during that week as well, he's seen how much, like, by that point, I had been there for a good few years, and I think he's seen how much an influence I had in the team as well, and like how I was around the change room. A lot of time, you notice that sometimes a player it's maybe not what they do on the pitch always that gets them like recognition. It's like how they are around the changing room and how they are like as a squad member and stuff like that. And as I've got older, I've realised that's a huge thing. Like one thing I'll always say to, like when I do these interviews or I speak to them like media and stuff like that, at this level especially, the half the battle is if you've got a good changing room. Do you know what I mean? Like that'll take you so far. And like last season, that's all like obviously done a lot like since we got promoted and won the league with Stirling. But I'd say 90% of what we had at like last season was our togetherness, our like unit, and that is a huge thing, especially at part-time level.
And you know, just to kind of touch on the Stirling, the only game that I've managed to get up to for Stirling this year was the Hamilton game. And again, as you say, it was the kind of togetherness that you seen because we were 2-0 down.
Aye.
And I mean, you would have been any football fan looking at that, you would have thought, like, the game's finished.
Aye.
And then to see the fight back to the point that I think right at the death, you could have won it after the penalty save. There was a chance the other end. And I remember being like, that's to have that kind of mental like kind of drive to be, do you know what? Because I've been to many games and you'll probably have a much better outlook on it than I will, but where you see a team doing 2-0 down and it's like down tools, we'll just play out the rest of the game and that's points dropped or we know we're not getting anything for this game. But to then see the kind of fight, and I'd kind of mentioned it quite a few times in different things because it was, I found just so impressive.
And to be honest, we've been like that for since, to be honest, gaffers came in. Like you told me before, not to mention his name, but I'm going to have to that. So since Darren's came in, like that's something he's instilled in the team. Like even when we're not playing well, and you're going to have weeks where you don't play well, we've always got a chance because we've got that unit togetherness. We don't want to get beat. And as you said, like Hamilton, I thought Hamilton were very good in the first half an hour or so, and they could have been more than 2-0 up. But when you get that first goal, it gives you like it was almost a wee bit against the run of play when Josh has scored, and it gives us that wee bit of hope going into the second half, and it makes Hamilton, they're a wee bit nervous, thinking like oh, they could come back. And our record at home's been unbelievable in the past 18 months. Like I think we've lost once at home in like 18 months or so. So it's that way where the fans have got behind us. It's a feel-good factor at the club, and you always just that way. Like when you get one, you think we're going to get another one, and even they get a penalty last minute, and Blair pulls off a great save, and it's that way where it's not the first time he's done it, and it's just right through for Blair, right through to number 22 on the team sheet. Everyone's together. Boys on the start and they're still together. Boys are coming on, giving their all. You know what I mean? And it's what we need.
With you, and I'm sure you won't mind me saying this now, being one of the more experienced players, right? But do you find that, and not just specifically with any kind of particular game or any player or that, but needing to be that kind of voice at times, where because you've kind of been there and done it for years now, because you've had promotions with Brechin, you've you know what the kind of it's like to be relegated.
Yeah, up and down.
So where you've had that experience, do you find that now you're able to kind of pull on that?
Oh, 100%. And I think, as I said earlier, like a lot like what you do on the pitch is much important what you do off it. You know what I mean? And I think I like to think that everyone I've played with knows that I'm someone I can speak to. Like I love winding boys up. That's part of my thing. I'm one of the voices in the change. I always have been. I love the banter. I love getting at boys, but 9 times out of 10 it's getting at boys so I can get a reaction, so everyone pulls together. Like everyone I treat the same. I don't care whether it's someone that's 33-year-old or someone that's 18. I'm treating everybody the same. I'm looking for. I try and set standards as well. Like as I say, I love a joke and that, but at the end of the day, I feel like hard work's the first thing you need to do at training. So like if I feel the standards aren't good at training, then I'll lose the rag and I'll have a go at somebody. And it's no really sometimes just aimed at him, it's aimed at the whole squad. And I feel like if I have a go at somebody, then it kicks somebody else on and kicks somebody else on. And to be honest, last year I didn't need to do it that much because we had that good, a hard-working team. But if it's needed, it's needed. Even like after yesterday, I'm just coming back for my operation, but we were doing it Annan and we got beat 3-0 and as much as I came in at the end of the change room, I said that to the boys, look, we didn't even play that badly. They've lost 3-0, but it's that way where we're going to have to accept that it's not like last year where we were winning every week. If we get a bad result, it's now a reaction. So, like, we lost to Falkirk a couple of weeks ago, and I thought we were really poor, and I had a right go, and me and Ross Davidson back and forward to each other, and the next game day we come in, it's totally forgotten about, and that's what I like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like that you're allowed to have a right barmy in the changing room, but there's never any like hangover or linger. It doesn't. It's right again next way. Speak to him, totally fine, move on, and that's what you need at this, like, at all levels, to be honest. And I think in the modern game, it's been taken out of it a wee bit. Like, I almost feel like you can't shout at somebody now because you're like, oh, they might take offence to that, or he's picking on me, he doesn't like me. And it's never that.
Yeah.
It's just that because, like, I know they're good players and you're just trying to get the best out of them. And I'd expect the same right to me. If I'm having a nightmare or I've done something, I'd expect the 20-year-old lad to tell me, here, you come on, you could do better. You know what I mean? And like, I might bite back to him, but that's fine. And that's what you want. You want to have a bit where during a game, you want to get the best out of everybody. As soon as the game's done, it's forgotten about your own mates. You move on to the next game.
And do you know what? I totally agree with what you're saying, Alfred. And I won't kind of mention the names because it's not come out yet. But I had a manager on who had explained to me when he was younger and he had a poor game. I think he tried to do something fancy, it never came off. And there was a player in the changing rooms grabbing him, pinning him up, having a right go. He says there was a bit of back and forth. It was, I mean, he did tell me, I don't know why I was giving it back because I would have got slaughtered. But at the time, I thought it sounded good. But his point was, you couldn't do that now.
No, you couldn't.
You know, that would be, I mean, I would go as far as to say that would probably be players getting chucked out of clubs and that for doing that now.
And I'm not saying, like, I think when I was a young boy, and it was maybe too far one way, where it was like probably was borderline bullying. There'd be times where there would be fighting and things thrown about the change room and stuff like that. But as a young boy, you're coming in and it's almost like, oh, I'm not saying anything, like, you've got some big 32-year-old 6-foot guy. I'm not getting in his face, but that was almost the respect that you needed at that time. And I feel like over the years we've went too far the other way, where you can't say anything. I almost feel like it needs to meet in the middle, where you should be able to have a go. The manager should be able to come in and shout. The captain, the experienced players should be able to come in and tell, like, say, here, you're not doing it, daddy, da. It doesn't have to be fighting or that, but it's almost now where you say that to a younger player or whatever, and they're like, well, it's not my fault, and they get their backs up, and you're like, and then they go away and they hold a grudge. Oh, no, he doesn't like me, and it's like, no, it's not like that at all. It's that way where I feel like society needs to almost come in the middle. You know what I mean? It needs to come back to like a neutral thing where if somebody's not doing something right, you should be able to tell them, by the way, that's not right, without it being, oh, he's picking on me, he's hurting my mental health. You know what I mean? And it's like, mental health's a huge thing, but I feel like we've went too far one way. Like, we need to get back in the middle.
I know, I mean, I totally agree, because you just think in the moment you should be able to say, look, that was terrible, that was this, that was that. And then they know, you know, and then after it, we just move on.
100%. And after a game, the emotion, like, one of the like the after a game, the emotions are so high, then it's everything. Like, you can sometimes have a huge go at somebody. You watch someone back in the video and you go, oh, by the way, I was completely wrong there. Like, you were right. And you should be allowed to say that now as well. Do you know what I mean? And it's with the amount of like videos you've got on games, angles for everywhere, all these stats, it's like the proof's there. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it doesn't need to linger on for weeks and weeks and weeks.
One of the kind of questions on the kind of management and stuff that I did want to ask was, and I know we joke about his name getting mentioned again because it's mentioned in every podcast I do, but with the success that he's obviously had, which small part is down to a mix of players, management, staff, and everything about the club, but I suppose because of the successes I've had there and because as well as I'm doing, what kind of manager is Darren like? Is he like a kind of tactical guy? Is he very much a in-your-face guy? Is it?
No, he's definitely not an in-your-face guy. Like, that's, I said that to a lot of people. He's really calm. He's the calmest manager I've ever played under. You could count on one hand how many times he's came in and lost the rag at the team. He's one thing I'd give him a lot of credit for is the type of person he's brought into the club. When he first came in after Kevin Rutkovic, the team, like, the feeling in the change room wasn't quite right. Like there was quite a lot of ego in the change room. There was maybe it wasn't really a togetherness. And then during the first 6 months he came in, towards the end of the season, he's then brought in his own players and his type of players, and he brought in a couple that he'd played new for East Fife. He brought in a couple elsewhere, and I could just tell during that pre-season and the first couple of months of that season that he's brought in a good type here, and they just developed and developed. And even this summer when he's only brought in a couple. He's only brought in Dale Hilson and Lewis Milne, but they've slotted right in, and it's like that way where the type of people, like as much as they're like very good players, it's the person, and they fit right in with the change room. And what he's good at is he's not someone that comes in and dictates the change room. He lets the change room run itself. So he's got experienced boys in there. He's got myself, Adam Cummins, Blair Curry, Jack Leach, Ross McGeechy, boys that have hundreds of games at this level, and we sort of run the change room, the fine system, the standards expected, everything like that, which means he doesn't have to. And that's the biggest compliment I can give him. And boys are going in there. We've got a good nucleus, a good aged team. So that's one real quality he's brought to it. The training is quite like a standards training, I'd say. Like there's nothing like crazy ideas he has or anything like that, but it's good to get the boys ready. I'd say, and he'll probably admit to this, he's quite superstitious. So if we're doing well, the training will be the same the next game week. You know what I mean? There'll be no. And I think he's stuck with. We played 4-4-2 most of the time, and people might think that's a little bit old school, like this 4-3-3 obsession nowadays. But I quite like the 4-4-2, and it works for our team and stuff like that. And he's willing to change it if it needs to be, but it's that way where everyone knows their role in the team, which is good as well. So it's a much calmer atmosphere in the changing room and stuff like that. And like every manager's got a different way of doing. Like Kevin was the complete opposite. Like, and I got on really well with Kevin. I've a lot of time for him, and I loved working with him, and I love working with Darren Young. So it's like, even though they're complete opposites, you can still take to both. You know what I mean? So.
But and Joe, just to kind of touch on what you said there with the 4-4-2 and the amount of years that I've kind of went about and watched, kind of football, all different leagues. Over the most recent years, I feel like it's one of the most underutilized
100%
setups, because as you say, there is this obsession with a 4-3-3 and playing 3 at the back. And there's just all this. Football managers created this obsession.
Aye.
I think the guys going online and going, look, we could try this.
Aye, and playing the pockets and false nines and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I personally feel as a defender, when you're playing against one striker, it's easy. Your two centre halves deal with one striker, and that's how I've always I always find it more difficult when you're playing against two, because both your centre halves are marking a striker usually, and then if one of the strikers is getting the better of one of your centre halves, then you're on the back foot right away. And we were good like last year, and through my years, one of the best bits of advice I've ever had is your team is only as good as your strikers, and that works 99% across all the levels. And last year we had Dale Carrick and Robert Thompson, and the two of them were brilliant. Like Dale got all the credit because he scored all the goals, and Dale was, for me, the best player in the league last year. Charlie Riley done fantastic as well for a struggling Albion team, and he deserved his move to Dundee. But I still feel like we were top of the league. Dale scored all the goals. Dale was the best player in the league. But I think Robert Thompson went really under the radar last year for what he'd done for Dale and the work that he puts in taking the pressure off of Dale. Like the defenders would then think, I need to mark Dale Carrick. But then Robert would be the one. And Robert done so much work off the ball and got us up the park and stuff like that. And Dale benefited off of that. And I think Dale will be the first person to tell you that Robert done a lot of hard work for him as well. And that to get like that relationship up front, it's hard. It gets your team up the park. It makes our job easier as defenders. We're defending a lot less. We're on the attack, and it showed at the end of the season. Won the league quite comfortably in the end.
I mean, the only thing that I will say is the only time I seen you play last season, and I did bring this up to Dan, was when you played Albion Rovers.
No, the last game of the season.
That was the only game I managed to.
Boys were already in Albufeira by then.
I mean, I think Dan then gave me the list of first team players injured.
Aye, that was, to be honest, the boys' heads were in Albufeira then. Like I remember now. It's probably not the ideal for you, but I remember conceding the second goal, and I turned around and looked at Kyle Banner, and me and Banner just looked at each other and we're just like who cares? You know what I mean? And it's that way. It's maybe not the right thing, but that point, that was the one game where it was almost like they would have to play. Do you know what I mean? Because your hard work had been done, and as you say, we had 7, 8 boys that probably would have been fit if we needed to get a result, but they were just like, no point in risking it. So no, that was a bad day at the office.
But I think the reason that I do bring it up as well, though, is because obviously I'd spoke to Dan previously about it, but as a player, when you're going in and you're knowing job's done, is it difficult to motivate?
Aye, it is. It's hard. Like,
also at that time, Rovers were fighting.
Yeah, aye, they had a lot to play for.
Yeah.
And they were probably glad to play us last game of the season because they probably thought of they're not going to be interested. Because the week before we had played, I can't even remember who it was, but we were getting the trophy that day. So there was that wee bit more, like the league was won, but we knew it was trophy day. So you wanted to put on a performance because it was getting the trophy. And so when we got the trophy and you had your nights out, like we'd probably been out every weekend for the past 4 weeks. So the next game week, you're like, we've got another game. And it's almost like there was, I mean, remember even Talkie saying, well, we just play the 20s. Do you know what I mean? Because it was almost like the team had been done, but it was almost that way. Well, we didn't want to be disrespectful to, I think it was Bonnyrigg that were going up against Albion to stay in the league at the time. So you didn't want to be disrespectful and play a weakened team. Like, so we played as many boys as like possible. I remember I played, Jordan McGregor played. So we still had a decent enough looking 11, but it was that way where without saying, like obviously you go out, you never want to lose a game. Like you still wanted to win, but it was that way where the first half was a sort of nothing game. I can't even remember if they were winning 1-0 at half time, but then the second goal goes in and it's almost that way, just being like, just this blow, like Albion are happy winning 2-0, we're happy, like it's just, let's just call it. You know what I mean?
It's like, it's not that way, I suppose, when you do go down and it's like gathering everybody together and going, right, we're fighting for this. It's like, do you know what, let's not get embarrassed here.
You didn't want to get back, you didn't want injuries, you didn't want anything to like set you back, you didn't want red cards which could lead over to next season. It's that way, you still got to be professional enough that you're like, it's natural. You like, I never losing at anything, even at training, like in wee small sided games. I hate losing. So, but it's that way where you've got to. I can remember the week before actually as well. I'll name him because he's one of my car school mates going through. But we were playing again. It was the week. I can't remember who it was again. Maybe Stranraer, but we were coming in at half time and we were actually winning 1-0. And Aaron Dunsmore's coming at half time moaning about how bad we had been. And he's came in and he's like, "This is terrible." And I've just walked in and said, "Dunsey, shut the fuck up, mate. We've won the league and we're winning 1-0. Like, it's that way where you've sometimes just got to put it in perspective. Like, we played 37 games and he's coming in moaning at half time, but we're winning. And I'm like, "Dunsey, mate, we didn't need to be like Brazil every week." Do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes you're going to be terrible, but you've come in 1-0 up. And it's just like, and it's that way, like, and he was like, "Oh," and it's that way when it's just like, come on, mate. Like, you've just got to put things into perspective.
And just be kind of mentioning before there about, not wanting to get like the kind of injuries and that at the end of the season. But I mean, you yourself over the last few years have been kind of sidelined with injuries and that. How is that when you know it's a kind of, I think one of the points you were out was a year, the best part of a season.
Best part so to be fair, in my career, I've been quite lucky with injuries. I've never really had too many bad. I've done my medial a couple of times, which 46 weeks. But we came back after the COVID period, so it was starting to kick off. So this was 2 seasons ago when started the season up at we played Cove in the cup game and Inverness up in the cup game and the Betfred, and I'd started the season well, looking forward to it. I'd had a wee niggle towards the end of the season that kept me out for a couple of weeks. So I was glad to get back into it. And we played on the Tuesday night with Hearts. And I came on for the last half hour. and we trained Thursday. And I remember the boys that had played the 90 minutes just in a light session, the rest of us trained. So, and I remember Kevin actually asking me at the time, like, are you want to train? Like, obviously, in week bit extreme. I was like, I know, of course, I'd rather train than go through and do a jog and a stretch and stuff like that. I've always rather trained. And towards the end of training, the ball's been spun into Dylan Mackin at the time, striker, and I've went to take off to tackle him, and I just felt bang. And I was like, I thought he had volleyed me. Like, I thought he had honestly caught me, and he was saying that perhaps I was nowhere near you. And that way, I just, like, Kenny, the physios came running on and looked at it, and he was like, oh my God. He said, I think your Achilles has snapped. And I was like, wait, what? And I remember being back in the back of Kenny's car, and he's came in, and I said to him, look, is that me? Is that my career? Is that done? Because you hear your Achilles tendon snaps and that's it. And Kenny was like, no, honestly, let's not jump to conclusions and stuff like that. And to be honest, the club were brilliant with me. So went for the scan on the Monday, and it was full rupture of Achilles. And they said, look, we'll support you, whatever you need. So they paid for my op. Got the op the next game Wednesday in Edinburgh at the Spire, and surgeon was brilliant with me and everything like that. So everything went okay, but it was 9 months of rehab, and that was tough. Like, I've never had that experience that in my career. Like, that way where it's almost learning to walk again. Like, because it's that you've got no power in your calf at all. Like, my muscle completely degraded. And I remember being, after 6 weeks after you get back to getting the boot off and able to walk, and going through to Stirling and the physio, and Kenny going, right, come on, calf raises. So I'm standing against the wall, and he's like, go, push off with your right calf. And that way, my body's saying, go, do it. I couldn't, my leg wouldn't move. It was literally flat, wouldn't move. And it was just like, Jesus. And it's that way, you need to try and keep positive that you will get back, but it's that way you think, God, am I ever going to get back to what I was before? Like, am I going to be able to play pain-free? Am I going to be able to run? I'm like, obviously I'm older as it is. I'm going to, you're going to lose a yard, but it's that way you think, God, am I going to lose 3 or 4 yards of pace? And I didn't need that at this stage of the career. So that was a hard time. But as I say, the club were superb with me, supporting me as much as they could. And Kenny Crichton, the physio at Stirling, was like, he's one of the best, if not the best, part-time physios. You've got boys for other clubs will go see him. He's got his own clinic in Glasgow, and boys for other clubs will go and see him because he's that good and he's that, like, supportive. And I was through with him numerous times a week, and like, that's the things fans don't see, the work like you players put in away for, like, the games on a Saturday. Like, I was through 2-3 times a week, just twice at training, through seeing him, through at my own gym, just battering it to try and give me the best chance of getting back. And like, and getting that trophy last year, it's like almost a reward for the hard work you put in. Like, injuries are going to happen in football, but it's the rewards at the end of it that make all the lonely nights where you're running around the pitch yourself, you're in the gym yourself, or do you know what I mean, worth it. And again, like, I wouldn't wish an injury like that on anybody, but I'm just glad that I was able to get back, and fingers crossed that, touch wood, that it doesn't come back.
And then I suppose as well, not just the coming back, but as you say, coming back and winning the league. Now must have been a kind of great feeling.
Oh man, like, so good. Like, I remember coming back, so I played after the injury. Like, I didn't think I would play again that season, but Kenny was like thinking, yeah, you've got a chance. And then I came back and I played the last 2 games of the league season. And it was that way as well. Like, obviously Darren had came in during, like, so Kevin Rukovic got sacked around the Christmas time, and Darren Young came in, and that way, well, I'd been injured. So, and I'd obviously known Darren for playing against him, like, in my time, but he's come in, a new manager, and he's probably looking at it like, Jesus, I've got a 31-year-old centre half that's just done his Achilles. Like, I'm going to need a new centre half. And if I was a manager going into a new club, I'd think that as well. And so I remember speaking to him towards the end of the season, and he said that to me. He's like, I can't offer you like what you were on. Like, I was on a decent wage and stuff like that. Like, so we came to some sort of agreement that it would have to be like, not quite a pay as you play, but that way where it was more incentive based on me playing, because obviously I'd had an injury. He didn't know how I'd come back. I didn't know how I'd come back.
Yeah.
And it was that way where I said to him, I don't know if I can sign for that. So I did consider leaving. I had a couple of offers for teams closer to home. But then I thought, look, Stirling have been brilliant with me. I'm going to and even like Kevin Rukovic had got the job at East Kilbride, and I had a really like good offer to go there, but I just thought like Stirling have been really good with me. I'm going to give it a bash and take the hit on the wages and understand that, yeah, okay, if I can play, then it will like impact me financially, but I wanted to have a right good go. I almost wanted to prove to like him a wee bit as well that I can still like be a big part of this team. And
Yeah.
during pre-season, everything was going well. I was back, I was doing well, and played the Betfred games and started to do really well. And that's when he pulled me into the office and said like he's like really impressed with what I've done. He's going to give me the armband, and it was like it was a nice thing to hear because obviously Ross McGeechy was the captain at the time and he'd been at Stirling for years and years. So I said that to him. I was like, you need to speak to Geeks. I didn't want to be coming in here and seeing like I'm taking and Geeks was brand new with it as well. And so that was a nice like thing. And I think my experience in that and how I speak in the change room, I think was a big thing. And I ended up playing like 34 of the 36 games that season. So it was really good for personally to like prove to myself, and then to get the trophy at the end of the season, it was fantastic as like a reward for everyone's like input in that and the whole squad. And I remember like it's one of the things I said to Geeks as well, like when we got to like we'll lift it together, because he had been like captain for 9 years. I wanted to make sure it was like a team effort as well. Like we got a bonus at the end of the season for winning league, and I made sure it was every player got the exact same money. It didn't matter if you played one game or me and Dale played 34, 35 games. We got the exact same because I felt it was a squad thing, and that's all the way I've always been. So like personally brilliant to get back fit, win the league, like captain and stuff like that. But the main things for the whole club deserved it. Do you know what I mean?
So when you're injured and it's a long period of time like that, do you still go to the games regular?
Yeah.
Or like in training and stuff, do you go and do physio work or?
Yeah, so after that injury, I was probably 2 or 3 weeks like wasn't at the club at all because I'd had the op, and that way I couldn't drive for I think probably about 2 or 3 months. I couldn't drive, but I was going through with as I say, my car school were really good and picking me up and stuff like that. My missus, my dad would drop me off if needed be. So there's probably 2 or 3 weeks where I wasn't at the club at all, and then the next couple of weeks I was going through on a Saturday to the games. But still, I wasn't able to really do any physio, like any like gym work or anything like that. And after about 6 weeks, when the boot came off, the first month of it was really just Kenny getting in and breaking down the scar tissue and like acupuncture and stuff like that, just to try and get the movement back in ankles. And then it was like just like small stuff like calf raises and walking and stuff like that. And then as I started to get a bit more movement and I was able to walk without a limp and stuff like that, it was bike work and swimming and strengthening of the muscles around it, calf work, glutes, hammies, stuff like that. And so then you're then going back your Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So yeah, I'd be going Tuesday, Thursday, and as the boys going out to training, I'm away in the gym with Kenny and stuff like that. So you've got your own little program as well. So Kenny had set up a program for me to follow. So as it got more, I could just do it myself, go to my local gym, do everything like that. And I think it was, so I got injured in August, and I think it was about January I started running again. So then that way that's when you start to feel like, oh, I'm getting close to being back. So you're joining them with a warm up with the guys. If they're doing a running session, I can do the running session, stuff like that. It was just the ball work the turning and stuff like that you couldn't do. And then I think it was towards the end of February, I was back in full training. And it's that way you're just taking it slowly because you didn't want to a recurrence, like any recurrence, and then you're back to square one, or you're probably at my age. If I've got a recurrence, that's probably it. You know what I mean? So it's that way you're mentally telling yourself like it's hard because you want to, like, as a boy, you want to push yourself. I want to play. But it's that way you've got to be sensible. I think, well, no, I can't play just yet. And it's like right now, like 2 weeks ago, I got a stomach pain and my appendix. I had to get my appendix removed. So that's happened 2 weeks ago. So now I'm at the situation where I'm like, oh, I want to play. Like I'm feeling good, but it's like the doc and Kenny's like, no, just take it easy. You've just had your appendix removed. So I was on the bench yesterday, and I'm like sitting there like, oh, I want to get on and play, but it's like it's probably no right to play. So another full weeks of training next week, and hopefully back involved next Saturday. But it's that I'm just like a wee laddie sometimes, just I want to play, I want to play.
Do you know what funny enough that was the next part that I down was that you had the appendix and
I'm mental.
obviously been out again. But as you say, you were on the bench yesterday. So
Yeah,
does
so
everything kind of feel? I know
yeah, it
probably a
feels
bit too
good.
early, but
So
you feel
it was 3 weeks. 3 weeks. I'll be actually was 4 weeks today or 3 weeks today. I think it was 4 weeks today. Got the op. Just felt a pain on Friday morning. Totally fine. No issues at all. And then went to the wee one, went to school and walking back. I was like, oh, my stomach's agony. And then 6 o'clock that night, I was bent over the bed. Like, my God, I'm in agony here. Phoned up NHS 24 and they're like, I come in, checked me over. Yep, appendix, need to remove it. I'm like, oh my God. So got that removed, everything fine. But they were like 4 weeks it'll probably take you to get back. And after about 3, I felt feeling good. So spoke to the doctor at the club and he's like, well, just try it, try running, see how we are. So Tuesday there, done some running, felt good. Thursday joined in training, again felt good. So the manager said to me, just come down Saturday, go on the bench. Hopefully we'll not need you. And got another full week of training this week and fingers crossed I'll be good to go for next week. So as much as it was not a huge like operation or anything like that, but it just sets you back like a few weeks and it's just like, how's your luck?
And the kind of last part to kind of look at is the rest of the season. I mean, the start that he's had to the season, I think, and I've been kind of well and kind of writing about it as to you haven't looked like part-timers going up against full-timers. You haven't looked like, and I know it's the kind of stigma of it, but you haven't looked like league new boys.
Yeah.
Where some teams can get promoted and you can very much tell they're not ready for this, which is happening with yours. Yous haven't looked like that. I mean, we spoke earlier about the Hamilton game. Hamilton hadn't conceded a league goal all season. And then, full-time, I think it's safe to say I've kind of sunk kind of everything into pushing for promotion this year at Hamilton, and yous went kind of toe to toe with him. And I always felt at the very end, yous had a chance to, after the penalty save, to kind of kill it, but still coming away with that. I mean, how do yous feel like kind of in-house it's been?
I think it's been again great. I think like the club's on a high right now. Like obviously running on for last season, and as I mentioned earlier, like we only added Dale Hilson and Lewis Milne. With the squad's basically the exact same for last season. I think the only one that moved on was Danny Denham, and we knew that we've got a good nucleus of a team for even a League One level. Like I think if you look at the squad, most of the players that have played like in the lower leagues have played at a League One level. Like before, most of my career has been at League One.
Yeah,
you've got like people like Robert Thompson, Dale Carrick, Jack Leach, Adam Cummins. They've all Blair Curry all played at a high level as well. So it's that way where we didn't feel like we were a League Two team going into League One. We thought we deserved to be League One, and we knew the games were going to be more difficult. You have 4 full-time teams in that league. It's going to be hard, but I think with the Betfred campaign we had as well, like topping a group, winning 4-0 at St Johnstone, like going up against Aberdeen, only getting beat 2-1 at home, and gave them a good account of ourselves. Like I think we know that we've on our day we're a good match for anyone. Like obviously within reason, but I think we know like we've got a chance this year. Like we're not stupid. We're not going to say we're going to win the league. Like we're not like you're being realistic. Like the aim is to stay in the league. Like there's no doubt in that. But I think if we can continue to play the way we are and have a right, like things go your way, you need to stay injured, like boys injury free. You need to get decisions on the day. You need stuff like that to go your way. But if things go your way, like there's no reason we can't like push for the playoffs. Like it's going to be difficult. Like I think before yesterday we had done really well. Yesterday was an off day, but these things are going to happen. Like we came up against Falkirk a couple of weeks ago, and that first half they blew us away. There's like I think we all held their hands up and said like 3-0 and they deserved it. There was no doubt in that. But against the other, like at home, we've been winning 1-0, 1-0. We've got a basically like a solid defence with no conceding goals, and if we continue that, we know Dale Carrick, Robert Thompson, Dale Hilson, Greg Spence will score goals at this level. So we've got 4 good strikers at this level that'll score goals, and if we can keep them out at the other end, they'll get goals. I think we'll do all right. Quietly go about our business, and we got rid off last year. Like I think at the start of last season, I think everyone probably didn't have Stirling Albion to win the league. Like we'd
Yeah.
been in League Two for 6-7 years, and we had in our own change room that we thought, like we looked at League Two and we thought, there's not a team there that you've not got a Cove, you've not got a Queen's Park, you've not got somebody that's throwing money at it. You know what I mean? There's no, I think Dumbarton ourselves, there was 4 or 5 teams that probably thought we've got a right good chance, and obviously we did and came out on top. And again this year, there's your 4 full-time teams, but then there's a lot of like, there's us, there's Montrose, there's Kelty, there's Alloa that are all probably similar. So like even Annan, Edinburgh coming up, like there's good part-time teams there that are probably all thinking on their day, like maybe we could sneak into a top 4, like get ahead of a Queen of the South for a Cove. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I honestly don't think there's a huge gap between 3rd, 4th in our league to 9th, 10th in our league. So I think if we can just continue to go about the way we're doing and things go away, maybe we could sneak in there.
And I think, as you say, it is obviously yesterday with the result, but where the result may kind of impact on now how you're feeling, like, oh, you know, that's how we play, that's rotten, we get beat.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as league positions go, it's not.
No,
I think still sitting
3rd in the league, guys. I think if you've got to ask any of us after 6 games of the league season, you've got to be 3rd in the league when there's 4 full-time teams in it. You bite your hand off for it. So it doesn't really matter how the results have went. You're still 3rd in the league at the end of the day. And you look at it right now, like Edinburgh have had a tough start to the league, but for us, we're already there. Like you're 10 points ahead of Edinburgh right now. You know what I mean? So that's a good gap. And then it's that way you just got to take, it's an old cliche, it's probably not what you want to hear, but it's one game at a time. So we go like away to Montrose next week, and again it's got to be a tough game. Like we got a great result yesterday. It's got to be a tough game, but it's one we'll be looking at. We can go and get a result there, but in the same way Montrose will be looking at going, Stirling coming up, we should get a result here. So I feel like almost every game you go into, it's that kind of mentality. Like I think when you play your Falkirks and your Hamiltons, it's that way. You obviously still think, oh, we've got a chance, but it's maybe one you're like, a draw is not a bad result there. Whereas every other game, you're almost going into thinking, yeah, we've got a chance. But in the same way, every opposition you come up, they're going to be thinking the exact same. So I think the league's so tight this year. I think it's the same as League Two. I think if you look at League Two right now, I think the top 4 have all got 11 points or something. So I think League One, League Two, it's again an old cliche, but there's never an easy game. Like, but you seen it last year. We played Albion Rovers or Bonnyrigg, who were struggling in the league. Like I think we struggled every game against them. Do you know what I mean? And then you play Dumbarton sometimes, second in the league, would win 6-0. So it's like it's that league's like it's crazy tight, and I think League One's just the exact same. I think on any one day, any team can beat any team, and it's good. It's what you want, isn't it? Like as a fan, that's what you want to see. Like you sometimes watch the SPL. Like, Rangers, Celtic, 99 times at 100 have got to win their game, and it gets a wee bit stale. So it's the beauty of the lower league, isn't it?
And definitely, and as you say, and I think that was going to point I was kind of pushing on was that if you were to offer where you would be after 6 games, sitting 3rd, having already played some of the teams you have played, has definitely been no stretch.
It's been a great start to the league.
Yeah.
Like the season, like you get out the group stage. We've never been out the League Cup group stage. Won the group, which is fantastic for the club, financially great for the club. Got a good draw against Aberdeen, sell out Friday night, brilliant. Personally thought it should have been on TV, but hey, that's not for me to say. And then you've had a good start to the league campaign, so it's the feel good factors continued throughout the club, and hopefully it continues for a good few years to come.
And the final question I've got is a non-football related question.
Okay.
Right. So if you could pick anybody to play you in a film about you, who would you pick?
That's a good question. As a thinker, well, because of the grey hair, I'll go with George Clooney, Silver Fox.
And I now do have a kind of follow-up to that. And this is because I get a few, so as you know, right, Darren's been on, and I ask this question every time. And for some reason, I get people emailing me telling me that I missed it for Darren. Now, I could have messaged him. I could have said to him, look, could you? But I thought, you're coming on. So If you could pick anybody to play him in a film, who would you pick?
Somebody played Darren Young. Oh, there's a question. How can I insult him without being too insulting? Maybe his brother, maybe Derek Young. He'll love that. The better young brother.
The recognisable face.
Yeah, the better player as well. I'll tell him that. He'll beat that one.
But look, I really do appreciate you coming on, Paul. As I say, I will be. What I actually realised was coming up to Stirling, so I'd went, as I say, the Hamilton game. I then went because Stirling University used there.
Yeah, aye.
So I then went during the week after, used to Hamilton, and went over for that game. And it was literally half an hour down the road. And I thought, oh, that's a lot closer than I thought it was ever going to be. When I was younger going, I kind of thought, oh, Stirling's miles away. Because it was trains and stuff. But then now realising, oh, it's a motorway.
That's it. See, like, even when we training, like, even when I played with Falkirk, we trained Stirling area, Falkirk area, and you think, Jesus, like, when I played with Brechin, you think, oh, the travel there's a nightmare, but it's actually only 40 minutes along the road. Like, and as I say, we've got, like, coming to training now, there's 3-4 years for Edinburgh, so you're driving once a week there. It's honestly not an issue at all. And that's like when you speak to some of your mates or people like, oh God, how could you play like that far away and stuff like that? But it's not that far, and it's totally fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'll be saying that the setup there's fantastic as well. It's
superb, right?
It definitely looks well from me. Obviously, you use it.
Nice. So we've got the stadium, and then we train there's an AstroTurf literally right behind the stadium. It's just been relayed, so it's perfect, and the facilities in the actual change room, like, really good. Everything, and the club's well run. You've got doctor, physio, a couple of kit men. Everything's okay. Like, especially last year where you had one board going out and one board coming in. It was big change and big turmoil, but everything's been running fine. There was obviously a few hiccups in the road and a few things to get sorted out, but we're starting to get your feet in it now, and we're getting there, and it's really good. Obviously, being successful helps because you're getting more fans in, more money into the club and stuff like that. So they've been able to, like, develop and stuff like that. So hopefully the club keeps moving forward. Don't want any setbacks, and hopefully, like, Stirling's too big a club to be in League Two. Like, when I was a younger boy, you always had, like, Stirling were a good League One team. Like, my very first season with Brechin, Stirling won the league at Brechin, and went into the championship. And for them to be in League Two for 7 years was too much. So it's good that they're back, and hopefully can continue. It's a good club. It's brilliant. I've got nothing but good things to say about Stirling, and same with Brechin. I'd love them for them to come back up. I'd love them to win the Highland League again and get up back in the league. So I'd love nothing more than that. Do you know what I mean? I love my time up there. So it'd be great for the two of them to be back in League One playing against each other again.
And do you know, I think that was kind of the point as well, where you have been so close. You know, I do kind of travel about. I'm the same as you. I look at the kind of probably the Highland League, Lowland League, and, you know, from remembering when I was younger and the games that used to go on in, like, the kind of the old First Division and League One and stuff, to now look and go, I remember when they were up the Championship and they were playing then, or the First Division and they're playing then. And as much as it's a great pathway, it is also kind of frightening to see some of the clubs.
The declines, 100%. And to be honest, I love so for me personally, I know you mentioned about reconstruction and stuff like that earlier on. I think that the team that wins the Lowland League and the Highland League, they should come automatically. And I don't like this playoff thing. I think if you're a league winner, you should come up. And I think they deserve to. I think there's teams like in the Lowland League and the Highland League that deserve the chance. Like, look at the teams that have came up and how well they've done. Edinburgh, Cove, I can't think anymore, but
Spartans,
they've came right up and they've done well. And it's almost a kick up the backside for the teams that are down that way. Like, teams like as East Stirling that were in the low League Two for years and they've went down. Like, you want them to, right, come on, let's get ourselves back up, stuff like that. Like, and there's not that huge gap between the kind of teams in League Two and the Highland League. So I think it's a thing that it's great for fans of the smaller clubs to have that opportunity. Like Bonnyrigg for years, good part-time club. Spartans, as you say, good part-time team. Let's get them up into the leagues and see how they do. And like, fair play to them. They've done really well, and Bonnyrigg started the season brilliantly again this year. Same as Spartans. It's great, and it gives the teams a right good chance. You've got good teams in the like Lowland League, Highland Leagues, like East Kilbride, like team that's put a little bit of money into it, and fair play to them. Let's give them a good chance. Trinent doing well down there. Even like last year, Stirling Uni done really well. So there's teams there that have got they deserve a chance to come up, and it's one I've always thought. I always think that if you win a league, to not get promoted, it's crazy.
Well, I think from what I've learned from doing this is not only do they not get automatic promotion, they don't get money.
Aye, it's mad. Like I've obviously been being the captain there, I discuss a lot with bonuses and stuff like that. So I'm privy to some of the money that gets given as rewards for winning the league, and it's the league, like for winning the league down to being 8th, 9th, 10th in the league, there's not a huge gap. It's not like it's hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of pounds more for winning the league to finishing 8th or 9th. So it's that way where clubs are only going to develop by getting a bit of money and a bit of investment and stuff like that. And I do feel like it could be done better at a higher level. Like the SFA could make it fairer and could, like, a stupid thing like for Stirling looking back on it this year, like we came up against Aberdeen on the Friday night in the League Cup second round, and I spoke to one of the directors at the club about it, and she said that she had a conversation with the SFA regarding the game on the Friday, and we had a game in the what's the trophy called, the Challenge Cup, don't know what the new name of it is, against East Kilbride on the Tuesday. And the big argument, they were saying, oh, well, the game has to be on the Friday because Aberdeen are playing in Europe against the game week. And she was like, and they were like, oh, we can't change it because it's a huge thing for Scottish football. And our argument was trying to say, well, this is a huge thing for Stirling Albion, like to get into a second round. This is our European game. So why can we not move the East Kilbride game on the Tuesday to a later time in the season, so we got the best preparation for the Friday? They're just thinking about Aberdeen in Europe, when it's like, I get that, huge, brilliant for Scottish football to have 5 teams in Europe at that stage and stuff, but they need to think about the part-time clubs as well. Like, so we've had to then play on the Tuesday night and just play the 20s because the manager was like, we need to prepare right for Friday's game against Aberdeen, arguably our biggest game of the season. And then it makes a wee bit of mockery of the other competition where we've put out a weekend team and it's no fair on the 20s. Our 20s players having to go in and play against a very good East Kilbride team. And then it sort of makes a little bit of mockery of that competition. And it's just that way where the SFA, you feel, could be a bit more supportive of the part-time clubs. You know what I mean? They all, like, I seen a thing the other day with Arbroath having to play on the Friday night against Dundee United, and the Arbroath were saying, well, our players are part-time. They're going to be working all day, whereas Dundee United, they're going to get to rest and that before the game. And it's that way where already the part-time clubs are at a disadvantage to the full-time, and it's just that way where it should be done as fair as possible. Like, why make Arbroath play on the Friday night against a full-time team? Why not make it the Saturday? Like, it's crazy. But
I think from kind of looking at it myself as well, I totally agree with you in regards to, I think a lot where a part-time team has got struggles as they're going to have coming up against full-time teams. A lot isn't kind of done to help, but I always feel sorry as well for fans. So to give you an example, and why I recently kind of came to this was, so Albion Rovers, I know quite a few season ticket holders at Albion Rovers. Now, obviously, and you'll know far better than me how long this season's been underway for. They have not had a chance to use their season ticket yet because they've not had a home league game.
That's madness.
So everything that they've had has been cup games, away league games, away cup games. So if they're paying, anywhere between 8 and 15, 16 pound a game, plus travelling, it's like they've done all this, paid, what's it, 150 or 200 pound for a season ticket, whatever it might be. I think it's 150. They said it was. We're now getting into mid-September.
Ridiculous.
And they've not had a chance to. And then these clubs wonder why they've not got a massive fan base. Why? And I'm not saying it's the reason all the time, but to look at it from that point, why they've not got a massive fan base, why there isn't people coming through, it's because they've already went and spent 150, 200 quid, whatever it was, on a season ticket, and haven't used it, and we're in now not far away from October.
October. And that's it as well. Like, I remember speaking when I was up at Brechin a lot about when they move a game to a Tuesday night or a Friday night or a midweek game, they don't get anywhere near the same sort of money they would get for a home game on a Saturday. I remember a lot of times speaking to them when Brechin would play a Forfar or an Arbroath, and that was a huge money maker for Brechin because it was the derby. So their hospitality would be sold out, like so crazy. They put everything on. And if the game got called off for weather, which is again nobody's fault, but these things can happen, and it's rearranged for a Tuesday night, their income would almost be halved because people that would come on the Saturday then, I can't come on the Tuesday night. I've got work, can't make it in time, or I'm working first thing on Wednesday morning. I'm not going to have 2 or 3 pints. I'm not going to have that bottle of wine. So the income that the club would have made would be cut down crazily. And then that then has an impact on everything else. If you're saying there again, Albion Rovers only had a home game for that, then their way of making money probably, and a lot of the income for teams like Albion Rovers ourselves is done on match days and what they make in. But if they've not had a home game, they're not making any money on tickets for that one game. They're not making money on the food they sell or sponsorships or hospitality or anything like that. So it has a huge impact, and it impacts back on the players playing, because then the club's like, well, can I give that extra money to get an extra player in? Meaning then it's impact, and it just has a snowballing effect. And it's that where I think people at the top, of course, they're going to think about the top teams first. You do. That's Celtic and Rangers is going to be your first thought. I get that, but it's almost like someone has to then think, how does that then impact clubs like lower down? Like even going for Celtic and Rangers down to your Motherwells and your St Mirrens and your Kilmarnocks, then it down further and further, and it gets to the point where we're almost like a back thought, and it's like, oh, it's fine, like, oh, it's fine, it's they're only part time, they're not going, it's not, it doesn't matter, and it's like, well, it's a livelihood for a lot of people at our level. You know what I mean? As you say, fans as well. Even the Friday night game, as much as it's good, it's a game on a Friday night for whatever reason, but you're asking Aberdeen fans, 95% of them probably working till 5 o'clock on a Friday to then get down to Stirling for a 7:30 kickoff. It's madness.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things. And you stay with the Albion Rovers one. I think they've had cup games at home, so that now they've been able to get, obviously not as much, but they've been able to generate some sort of thing from that. Yeah. I think it's league games. From what I was talking, I had a few people saying to me, I've never used my season book yet, because it's always been away or a cup game at home. But it's the same again, because you're thinking when these, like you're saying with the Aberdeen one, when these games are going to get rescheduled and redone and everything else, they don't think about fans or clubs' income. No. They think about, right, where can we slot that in? Here's dates in the calendar. What date can, say, yous play? What date can they play? They've both said that date's okay. Let's just fire it in.
And I even one for personal last season, we were due to play Elgin away on Christmas Eve, and it's like come on, like why, like they think about that, and then they're like saying, oh, it's good for fans, they get to go up and at Christmas, it's a Christmas thing, but it's like, what about the players? Like, we've got families as well, and I'm sure the fans have got families. They probably didn't want to have to go up to Elgin on a Saturday before when Christmas was on the Sunday. So originally the plan was for us to go up on Christmas Eve and play. We wouldn't have got back down the road till 11, 12 o'clock at night, and it's like, it's Christmas the next day. Like, a lot of the players, the staff have got young families. It's like, so the good thing there is Stirling spoke to Elgin and we got the game moved to the Friday night. But even then, you're still like, it's that Christmas period. It's even the weather. I've been there before. We've went up to games and the games get called off when you're actually at the pitch. That happened when I was at Peterhead when I was a young, like 1920, playing for Brechin. We went all the way up to Peterhead, game called off when you get there, and it's like, it's madness. And it's just like, why would you arrange Stirling to play Elgin on Christmas Eve away from home? Yeah. I know somebody's got to do it, like, but it's that point of like saying, well, maybe Elgin should play the team closest to them on Christmas Eve. Like that, does that mean no make sense to everybody? Do you know what I mean? And it's just madness.
And I think there is, as we've kind of spoke out, some kind of great opportunities for teams kind of coming up through the leagues. Maybe the opportunity in the way that pyramid works isn't right. There's probably a lot of alterations that can get done in that for it to be, because I'm in full agreement. I think if you win the league, you go up. I think if you are, now maybe then the next couple of teams can go into some sort of playoff. And so I think that, there can be more looked at it like that. I think it's then the same, but you start to move up away from the lowland leagues and we go into, your League Twos and your League Ones, that you can see a lot of stuff even in that needing to be altered and needing to be changed. But I think that for me, I always think the kind of biggest thing is that you look at it and you go, who's in the heart of that kind of looking at these decisions? Are they decisions maybe too? And when I say minuscule, what I mean is compared to the bigger decisions they've got, is it maybe a case of, well, do you know what, that's not really a massive deal, we can push that to the side? Or is it the fact that people don't just know or look at this stuff?
I feel as well that you have all this discussion about the league reconstruction, and it's that way where I feel like if you got, whether it was a former player or former managers together and actually sat them down, one for maybe a representative of each of the 42 clubs across Scotland, and done it like, look, what do you think? Like, rather than it be SFA members that you don't ever see, you don't hear from, whatever, just maybe speak and get a general opinion and say, like, do you think the league structure works right now? Everyone's going to have their own opinion. You're never going to get 100% people agreeing on things. But I think most fans, most players probably agree playing each other twice at home, twice away is maybe too much. Do you know what I mean? Like, I quite like the fact that it would be once away, once at home. I personally like 16, 16, 16. I think that you would bring 6 teams up for the Lowland or the Highland League. And we've already talked about the teams that have came up and done well. So you could find 6, no problem whatsoever, to come into these leagues and play. And even in the SPL, you're adding 4 teams up for the championship. You're not telling me teams like Dunfermline and Dundee United that are down there right now and Inverness have been in the SPL for years, couldn't go in and compete in the SPL as well. Like, there's, and already between League One and League Two, there's not a huge gap in quality. So I just feel like we almost play like, you're playing 36 games a season in the way it's currently works. And I think if you moved it down to 16, 16, you played 30, you maybe done some sort of split or some sort of playoff system to make a wee bit more games up. Then you could have all your cup games played at a weekend. So teams that are in Europe would have a better chance in Europe. Your national team would then have a whole week lead up to games. I just feel like sometimes it's burnout of players. You're forcing, and as you talked about there, like especially the Lowland League, the amount of cups they have. Like, we've had a couple of boys, like speaking to Mark Weir, the goalkeeper at Stirling, and he says the amount of cups they have in the Lowland Leagues, like, it's ridiculous. Like, it's so many games.
I was looking at fixtures the other day, and now obviously for what game am I going to go to and stuff, and I was like, is that another cup in the Lowland? And I was kind of going back and trying to work out, right, so is that cup another round for this cup? But no, it can't be, because these guys get beat, so they wouldn't then be in it. And plus they've got a lot of the kind of cups that people out with, like your League One, League Two teams and stuff are going to be in as well.
Because I think yesterday they were all playing like a South Challenge Cup or something, and then I was seeing next week they've got the Scottish Cup like preliminary rounds or the first rounds coming up next week and stuff like that. And so you're like, well, there's 2 Saturdays gone by that are league games now no happening in the leagues, and then you end up seeing these teams are playing Saturday, Tuesday, and it's like, when is the managers or that getting a chance to like work on anything in training? When's the boys getting a chance to let them like recover? Yeah, you know what I mean? If you're playing Saturday, Tuesday, it's tough going.
See, be fair as well, it's when you look, so when you're looking at it and they're playing that many games, I mean, I've kind of pulled up so Albion Rovers, just because it was a team we spoke about, so they've got like 4 or 5 games in hand.
And that's a disadvantage to them. Like, they're already like 4 or 5 games behind, and it's tough when you're playing catch up. They talk about burnout at the top level. Like, I seen down at Manchester United, the centre half Varane talking about how many the burnout the players are asking too much, and it's like they're talking about that when they're getting massages, rests, all these top quality, earning 150 grand a week or whatever they're earning.
Yeah,
but we're at work 9 till 5 Tuesday, and then Wednesdays we've not got time to go for a massage. We've not got time, and we're playing for a few £100 a week.
And then not being able to come in and just get your chef to just prepare whatever you want. I mean, there'll be so many times you can get away with that with your partner, but you'll not get away with it every day.
I've lost count of the amount of times my pre-match meal's been picking up a sandwich for the garage on the way up to a game, because you're working till 5. you're then going up, to, especially when I played at Brechin, you're driving up to Brechin and you're picking a sandwich up, and that's your pre-match meal. Do you know what I mean? As you drive up 2 hours to a game, and it's like, it's mad. It's mad.
The only kind of part I'll kind of finally throw in is when you were talking about getting people together. And what's probably frightening is because I'm doing what I do, so I speak to a lot of managers and I can ask them now, what do you think? It will probably surprise them how many of them have got the same outlook. Because they're always kind of throwing a word like, I'm only one voice. There's bigger people than me that look at this. There's, smarter people than me that will look at that. There's guys that know. But in actual fact, a lot of them have got maybe not the exact same theory and how it works or how it should work, but they've all got the same outlook and the same, they're going down that same line, maybe just slightly altered in what they think would fix it. But it's just frightening to do this and to see how many people will all say to me, we think there should be more teams in the league. Each of the leagues, and this is how it should kind of go, and kind of similar to yourself. And it's frightening when you speak to these guys that they all kind of say, oh yeah, but I'm only one person. That's not something that I look at. That's not to do with me. That's a personal opinion. But actually, you could look at clubs from the Championship right down to the Lowland that I've spoke to, and every one of them have had a very similar outlook on it. So you do think, as you were saying, if they just get a representative for each of these clubs, they'll probably find, well, actually,
they've all got similar ideas.
They're all, where there can be slight deviations, but a lot of them have got similar ideas and similar that, yes, this needs to be changed.
I agree. And I think a lot of it, and again, it probably comes down to money at the end of the day. That's what it always comes down to. And I think a lot of the hold back is probably teams at the top level thinking, I get Celtic and Rangers twice to come into my ground. Do I want to change that down to once? Do you know what I mean? And that's probably a huge impact here. And that is probably, from a financial point of view, these clubs are thinking, that's a huge money maker for me. I didn't want to change that. And that's probably causing a huge disparity or hold back on the actually taking the leap and doing it. I just feel like 2 times a season would be, every other top league in Europe basically does it 2 times a season. I don't think we should have 20 teams like the English Premiership, but I think 16 teams for a country our size is fine. Like I think the Germans are 18 maybe, I don't know, but I think 16, I just think it works. I think, and you're never going to know until you try it. So for me, I think it's something you could potentially do for 2 or 3 seasons. Look, if it doesn't work, you can go back to how it was before. Do you know what I mean? It's something worth trying. And like Scotland internationally right now, brilliant. They've been absolutely fantastic under Steve Clarke, but over the past 20 years, we've not developed the type of players to match like that we think we probably should. And could that be a way it would help? I don't know. It's something to just see if it would work and would help us internationally, Europe, like in European as well. Like Celtic and Rangers and Hearts, Hibs, Aberdeen, whoever's been in Europe, like there's, apart from Rangers who's run to the UEFA Cup final, Europa League final, we've not really done well in Europe in the past 15 years. And could it be something we do better? And competing with the money that the English Premiership get, almost impossible, but it's worth trying.
But no, as I say, I do kind of really appreciate you taking the time to come on. When Darren had messaged me and says, I thought he knows that it's his captain and he's going to talk about him. So I was expecting you to come on with a kind of list of Darren Young quotes.
Oh, my hero and everything like that.
I was actually expecting your background to just be a picture of him and his playing days. Because I think I'm very close to now having that as my background. Because I kind of do a wee thing where when guys come on, I'll kind of ask, look, if there's any chance that I kind of when I come into a game of that and get a wee kind of signature on like programme, top, whatever it may be. The reason I'm saying this as well, and it would be great because obviously I can get yourself and Darren, so Darren's now not the only one at Stirling that's going to be on it. But I had been doing this, and so Darren had invited us over. It was a Hamilton game, and he's like, look, because one thing I do with my dad is football. You know, being older now, we don't really kind of hang about or anything but football, we always kind of come together and go to different stuff. So Darren's, look mate, you know, I've here's the tickets for the game and come in and enjoy it. I'll try and grab you after the game.
Mhm.
So, and I appreciate, he spoke to me after it, like in the phone. So I'd come in and I thought, right, what would be good to get inside? There's the wee shop, as you first walk through the turnstiles.
The right hand side, aye.
So I'm buying stuff, right? Buying stuff, and I was like, it'd be good. And then my dad's with me, so I'm like, and my dad buys a program everywhere, sometimes two, because he can read one and put one by. I don't know what his logic is in it, but anyway, he's buying kind of program buys, and then I never got Darren after the game, and I thought, he's just knowing that I've spent this money and that. I bet he's in commission here. It turned out, I think he's had got a couple of injuries or stuff, and he was up and kind of talking about the kind of stuff. And also, again, I appreciate there was media come out and stuff, but I'm thinking, do I hang outside? Am I going to look weird if I just kick about outside?
Just waiting there,
I just standing, or if I just sit in my seat, is somebody eventually going to come up and go, listen, mate, he's no coming. You can sit there all you want, he's no coming. And I thought, do you know what? I'll bounce up the road. It's cool and that. I'll catch up with him later on. And then, to be fair to him, he'd messaged us saying, he's like, oh, look, mate, really sorry, blah, blah, blah. And I'd literally, I think we'd only been in the house about kind of 5 minutes when he'd done it. And I was like, oh, it's cool. He's like, oh, no, I'll definitely get you over. Which I know he definitely will. You kind of messaged quite a lot. He kind of brought yourself on, like kind of spoke to, because I did say to him, having any kind of player on would be great. And then he kind of, I think he spoke to yourself and he kind of reached out to me. I think the point is I completely appreciate everything that Darren's done. I think for everybody that I've been in touch with, I think a lot of guys have been really good. Darren, to be fair, has been brilliant. Probably over and above what a lot of others.
That's one thing I'll give him credit for as well. He's very good at like telling you how it is as well. He's like he's honest. You know what I mean? He'll say how it is and he'll keep you informed in all his decisions. And he's been brilliant with me, and we've had a really good relationship. Like obviously captain and manager, times you'll disagree and whatever, but there's not been many. Like we've not really had many arguments back and forth. To be honest, it's been good. And obviously when you're winning, it does make it easier. But even with defeats like yesterday, I was obviously on the bench uninvolved. But as soon as I'm walking in after doing my running after the game, he stopped. He's like asked me what I think of the game, which is it's great. It keeps me like involved and stuff like that. And whenever I speak to, I think he takes it in like, and it is something. And we do have a good bit of banter. Like I'll wind him up about some of his sessions he puts on, and he'll wind me up about my age and how slow I am running and stuff like that. So it's that way. It's done in a light-hearted way, you know what I mean? So it's good. And I can't believe I'm going to say it, but good respect for him.
and you know, as I say, I do, for the kind of time that I've spoke to him, and he's been absolutely superb. But what I'm feeling now is that because of the guys that are coming on, obviously yourself, obviously playing, and he's your manager, there's going to be him coming up. I'm feeling like I need like a kind of 5-minute Darren Young session.
Get like the Darren Young podcast.
Everything's going to change. It's going to be just me sitting with a Darren Young mask on, right?
Getting strip, Young on the back.
and just kind of speaking to guys about what I'm doing, but having his face and everything there, because as I say, I think Bill Leckie came on. We spoke about Darren Young, and it was Bill brought him up. Jim Delahunt was the same, and there was a couple of people. I'm thinking, does he know who's coming on this? And
he's in my text before it and said, make sure you mention me.
Listen, if you can just name drop me in this would be fantastic. Thanks, because genuinely, obviously with yourself, I appreciated he was going to come up.
Yeah,
because but Jim Delahunt, get brought up on. He get brought up in Bill Leckie. He get brought up. Sandy Clark, he get brought up, and these are ones that haven't even come out yet, haven't even been released yet, and I'm like, so there's the ones that have came out and he's been spoke about him. Here's the ones that haven't been released yet, and he's been spoke about. And I think his name's mentioned in my podcast more than mine's is. And I genuinely done it where in one of them I watched it back. His name was mentioned 6 times, mine's twice, and it was my podcast. But as I say, obviously it's been I do kind of have a right lot of respect for him, and I'm kind of grateful for everything he has done. So I suppose if his name has to get mentioned every podcast, it's fine. I mean, I'm not even going to look for sponsors now. I'm just going to go brought to you by the Darren Young Appreciation grip, and it's just that. But look, I really appreciate you coming on. I hope you have a kind of fantastic season, and you manage to kind of, now your injuries and niggles are away.
Yeah.
There's no more shocks and surprises.
Yeah.
Aye.
I started the season so well, 3 goals. I got in early doors, and I'm thinking, here we go, and then you get set back with this. But hopefully that's it. Back fully fit, good to go.
I mean, you'll never know if you're maybe just at that age where you're like, do you know what, maybe a few weeks off is ideal. Oh, I've got a niggle, and then come back again.
No, that's just not me. I just want to play, as I like play through things, and folk tell me, no, you'll need to rest. But nah, I'll just play.
But I'll definitely be up again throughout the season, as I say. Great setup.
Just give me a shout. Let me know if you're coming along. I'll come up and sign in, and you need, and get a wee chat and stuff like that.
No doubt you'll see Darren.
Probably, I'm sure I'll see him.
No, I mean, no doubt you'll see him going, oh, God, I know I was meant to sign something there, but can you tell him I need to be mentioned in another 6 podcasts?
Don't mention me enough in the last couple.
Before I can go on. But look, all the best for the season. As I say, I'll definitely be out, and I really appreciate you taking the time, mate. Thank you.
Top man. Thanks very much.
Cheers, mate. All the best. Cheers, man. Bye.
Thank you.